Welcome, creators. Sit yourselves down by the crackling hearth fire and listen, for a world of opportunity awaits you. Welcome to episode 3 of the Professional Dungeon Master's Guide, where we unlock the secrets of earning money online as a professional dungeon master. In this episode, we will unveil the step-by-step process of creating an alluring adventure template on Start Playing that is sure to attract adventurers from far and wide and get you one step further to your career as a pro DM. If you're enjoying this series so far, then please like, share, crit the subscribe and notification bell, and get ready to level up your online DM game like never before. Let's dive in. So, on Start Playing, you must create a game template. Once you have this kind of template made, then you can use it to advertise for different games on the site, and that's what'll pop up when people are searching for games. But you must make this template, and it must be approved by the team that approves them on Start Playing. This is we'll touch on this a moment later, why exactly that might be, and where you might run into trouble with that. But here we go. All right, let's do it. Here we are. First of all, in Start Playing, you just click on your little icon there. You've got your beautiful picture there. I know you already do because you've been following along already, haven't you, with the previous video? That's correct. So you head into Game Templates, and as you can see, I've got a bunch of them here, but we're going to ignore those for now. And you can see, first of all, you click on Create Game Template. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. You should do that. But I'm just going to show you a game template I've already had approved, so you can see what one looks like. We can edit it. It'll look exactly the same as if you were making a new one of your own. As you can see here, make a game template. Step 1 of 3. So the very first thing and the most important aspect of your advertising is your image, your thumbnail. Just like YouTube or really any other social media, the thumbnail is what's going to grab people's attention. It is the most important thing to get people clicking on your ad. Then comes the title, and then comes the innards, which we'll get to. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about the thumbnail, as it's so important. The first thing to note, and this is the main reason templates get denied on the site once you submit them, is that you cannot use any branded images from Wizards of the Coast. For some reason, they just hate that, and they've apparently been in contact with Start Playing to kind of reestablish and reaffirm that absolutely no, people cannot use our imagery on here to promote their games. It's kind of strange, seeing as how we have the OGL, but anyway, that is just the case. If you do use branded imagery, you will not get approved for your game template. So what I recommend, well, first of all, actually, Start Playing has a library of free to use images, but it is much better to make and find your own, because 9 DMs out of 10 on the site are using the kind of library of free images, and so what you get then is you get a lot of advertisements that just kind of look the same, and none of them really stand out. So it's much better to make your own. You can either, if you're an artist, great, you can draw some stuff yourself. If you have the money, you can also hire an artist to make one for you. You can also make your own. You can have a look for free copyright free imagery. And kind of, craft one yourself in applications like Canva is very good. Their free version is great, but it's, for me anyway, I found it's totally worth paying the monthly subscription because it's just so good for making images of your own. What I've done for this one, and you can do this too, if you wish, is you can use an AI art generator like Midjourney or DALL-E, whichever one really that you can kind of get your mitts on. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't 100% like to do this because I would much rather pay an artist, and this is something I will be doing in the future once the funds are there for it. But for the meantime, if you're starting out, go for it. Type in exactly what you want. Like, for example, you can see here, I've got Jarl Axel he's in the module Waterdeep Dragon Heist. And you've got this kind of different version of the castle enters I've just thrown in there. So, Start Playing have said that thumbnails with prominent characters, do a lot better than ones that don't, whether if it's just like a background image or some vague artwork. It's much better to have actual characters. You can see here actual characters, maybe from the maybe from the module you're running, or maybe it's one of your own characters. But the important thing is that your image in your thumbnail, really, it's kind of like what we've been talking about before. With your profile image, your about, you are trying to reflect the game you're playing. You want to give people an idea of what your game is going to look like, the tone, the feel of it. As you can see here, there's this kind of gold, it's bright colors. You can see this vibrant metropolis in the background. And you can see some mysterious and dangerous looking villains in my thumbnail here. Also, something very important, and I see a lot of DMs do this, where they'll put their logo in it, or they'll kind of clutter the image up with text. Don't do this. It just kind of confuses people. It seems to put people off. The best thing is to put, like I've got there, this is the module running, Waterdeep Dragon Heist. And that's it. That's all people need to really know. As long as your thumbnail is attention grabbing and that's a module they're interested in running, they'll probably click on it. So yeah, do not clutter up the image with your logo. No small writing or too much writing, and it has to be easy to see, read, and understand. And your image has to give has to portray the kind of general type of game you're running. Now, moving on to the title, the second most important thing. The first thing they see is the image. It draws their eye, they look at it, and then the second thing they do is they look at your title. They read it, that is the next thing they do. So a good title and image combo is really what's going to kind of get people clicking on your ad and checking out what you put in there. So something important, don't just put the title of the module. I've put that in the image here, it's plain and simple, that's the module we're playing. But try and think of a kind of catchy or enticing, something dramatic kind of title for your game. As you can see here, I've written Thieves, Lords, and Legends delve into Waterdeep's Dragon Heist. As you can see, that's a little bit more enticing than just Waterdeep Dragon Heist, right? And a bunch of other people are just putting the name of the module and not getting creative with it. But the whole point of this is you're trying to stand out. The game description. So they've seen your thumbnail, really liked it, bothered to read the title, they really like that too. Sounds juicy, sounds like what they want. So now they've clicked into it and they are reading the description of your game. Now, just like the about section that we created together in the previous video in the PDMG series, your game description needs to be snappy, concise, and always targeting the desired player demographic and convey to those who are interested a taste of what your game will be like. Now, don't write too little. And in fact, I believe Startplaying had to add a minimum character limit because people were just writing less than 30 characters for their description. So write more than that, but at the same time, large blocks of text will turn people away. No one ever read the enormous novel length little quest text boxes in World of Warcraft. Very little people did, and that's why it's just a block of text that turns people away. 2 to 4 short and concise paragraphs will be more than enough to let players know what they're in for. This is important. You've caught their attention, you've caught their eye with a flashy thumbnail, you've piqued their curiosity with an interesting title, and now this is probably what's going for many players decide whether or not they join in your game. So spend some time thinking about this, get it right, get some feedback from your friends or other people who play D&D or any tabletop RPG really. Send it to them and ask them if this is enticing to them. By reading this, does this get them excited to play this game you're advertising? This is what's going to make people choose your game over the countless others who are advertising on the site. So you need to make sure that it's enticing, exciting, and convincing. So scrolling down to game platforms, only put the platforms you're going to be using for this game on here. Some DMs put every platform they know how to use on here, but it's not what they're going to be using for this game, for this module. This just confuses players when they see that you have Foundry, Roll20, Discord, Google Meets. You've put everything on there that that you might use, or that you know how to use. But in reality, you're only using Discord and Roll20. If you put more than that, people are going to show up confused. It's going to lead to a bad first impression, and it will just leave, people. You don't want players showing up to session 0 confused. You want them knowing exactly what they're in for and excited to meet other players, meet you, and just talk about their characters and others. So scrolling down here now to session cost. This is probably what most of you are wondering about the most. What the nine hells do I charge for this? Am I even worth charging money? You know, all of these doubts, imposter syndrome, I'm sure is creeping up. You know, I'm just getting started, so maybe I should just charge as little as possible. Maybe I should even just do them for free to get reviews. But listen, you're watching this guide because you want to make money out of this. Pro DMing is a job. You're providing a service that is remarkably different, by the way, than DMing just for fun or for free. You are running a game for players, for your paying customers' enjoyment in mind, not necessarily your own. This is an important distinction, and it's why it's worth paying money for a professional dungeon master. The game is completely focused on their enjoyment. And sure, yeah, of course you can have fun too. You should be having fun, but this is a job. You're getting paid money to do this. Yes, the player's enjoyment is first and foremost, and you need to do a hell of a lot more work and sacrifice a lot more of your enjoyment to provide an excellent experience that's worth paying for. So don't undersell yourself. This is a valuable skill. It's a skill in demand too. Everyone wants to play D&D. No one, well, not as many people want to run it, right? We all know this. We've all experienced this, especially you forever DMs out there. Feel few. I do. I know what it's like. However, don't expect to be able to charge $30 per person per session right off the bat. It's not going to happen. People are not going to choose you. You have no reviews. You've got no verified games. People aren't going to pay that. I would say that a good starting point is between $15 and $20. If you are feeling very, very confident about your ability as a DM, then yeah, maybe push it closer to the $20 mark. However, at $15, a lot of games on there, a lot of DMs who get started, this is generally where they start. And people are willing to take a chance on a less experienced DM for less money, because, you know, a DM on the site with 40 to 50 reviews, with 100 plus verified games under their belt and visible on their GM profile, they can charge more. They can charge $25, they can charge $30. It goes up to $40 and beyond per player per session. Now, you want to get there, sure, but for the meantime, keep it at 15. One of you was asking in the comment section in a previous video, and I always encourage you to please post down in the comments anything you'd like me to cover in these videos. But one of you was asking, when do I know to increase my prices? When do I know how to do that? When do I know to do that? So I would say that if you've got, when you get to maybe 10 to 15 reviews, and you know, maybe the same amount of verified games visible, you can bump it up $5. And then after that, maybe every 50, right? Every 50 reviews, every 50 to 100 verified games, bump that number up another $5. Because clearly what you're doing is working, you're getting in the players, and well, to get that amount of games run and reviews, you're doing something right. You are in demand, but be patient, okay? Just be patient. It takes a while. It does take a while to get reviews and verified games. But unlike me, you are starting on Start Playing from the get-go, so it won't take as long for you as it did for me. Again, kind of right now, currently I'm just getting started on Start Playing. Sure, I've got a few reviews and a few verified games, but in reality, I have a ton of games under my belt, and I've made the huge blunder of not running them from Start Playing and getting them recorded on there from the beginning. That's why my games are $20 and not $25 to $30. Now, I started, some of you might even want to go lower, I started at $10. And at the time, I was just happy to be making any money doing this, and you probably will feel like this too. However, listen, $50 for 6 hours of both prep and playtime, sometimes more. It's just not worth it. Trust me, not for this. It is exhausting. It also kind of makes, if you're playing this hobby for fun, it diminishes it. It does. I'm going to be straight up with you. I do not either have the time or energy or kind of creative fuel to run a game for free for my friends. I just don't have it. I was running one. I had to cancel it because all of my energy was going into doing this. So there is that sacrifice. That is why you're not charging $50 a game. You just don't do it. It's not worth it. Or at least in where I'm living, it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Maybe $50 in your part of the world is a huge amount of money, in which case, of course, adjust for that. But I'm speaking more in like the UK, Ireland, America. It's just not worth it. Just to touch on running games for free again, just for a moment. You can do this at the start, for sure you can. However, just please keep in mind that even if you build up, and sure, this might be a great way to get reviews, but just understand that once you make that change from running free games and you've built up a bunch of players, you have maybe even a bunch of returning players because you are now becoming a great DM. You're running a couple games a week. You're going to get better just by doing that. But when you change to a paid structure for your games, just understand that 80%, if not more, of these people are not going to keep playing with you because they are not willing to pay. Most of them aren't. They're willing to pay a free game for sure. But most of them, a few of them will, sure, be willing to kind of pay once you start charging. But most of them won't. So just understand that you're kind of starting from the beginning with a player base. However, running free, and I have yet to experiment with this, but I think it's a great idea. Running free one-shots to sort of promote the paid game or module you're thinking of running, it could be a great way to grab some people who like to try before they buy. Just be sure to plug and link, of course, your paid sesh at the maybe start and end of the one-shot. Like, for example, you could run a quick one-shot of your own devising, or maybe something you grab online, of just keeping in the same vein as the one I'm showing you, set in the city of Waterdeep. And in that one-shot, if you run the NPCs very well and you make the city come to life, this will probably convince people who like to try it before they buy to join you. So think about that. Maybe think about giving that a go. All right, scrolling down here. We spent a lot of time on that, but it's very important to your pricing. But here now, scrolling down to session duration. A $20 2-hour game is a completely different experience to a $20 4-hour game. The former has to be quite exceptional to warrant the price per hour, I suppose, to kind of warrant that. However, don't give too wide of a margin. As you can see here, I've got 3 to 4 hours. If you advertise a time frame between 1 and 5, for example, you're bound to disappoint somebody. If you run too far over the minimum or too far under the maximum, right? So narrow it as much as you can and always try to run it, or at least I do, and I think it's a great way to over deliver on expectations. Always try to run it close to the maximum time you give. You want to over-deliver, but the minimum is there in case you needed to cut it short due to maybe narrative reasons or really any other reason. Game systems. Okay, so this is exactly the opposite as your GM profile. As we discussed in the previous video, in your GM profile, you want to put every single system that you know you can play because, as I said, players might be looking at your GM profile and not the games you're running. They might see that you can run Call of Cthulhu or Pathfinder, even though you're not advertising game for that, and they will maybe DM you saying, "Hey, can you run that?" Which is great, by the way. But for your specific game advert, only put the system you are going to be running. If you're running 5e, only put 5e. If you're running Pathfinder, only put Pathfinder. If you're running Pathfinder, do not put, but also I can run this. Only in your GM profile. In this, be specific. We want to avoid confusion. We want players showing up at the first session 0, unconfused, right? I cannot beleaguer this point enough. Misaligned expectations is a very, very bad thing. Trust me. So be specific to the game you're advertising for. Now, scrolling down here to theme, settings, and adventure tags. So this will help people find your game. Be specific, as always, and keep in mind the kind of players you're trying to attract. There it is. There's that magic phrase again that I keep harping on about. As you can see there, if you want to run a very grim or dark Curse of Strahd, then don't put the wacky tag in, for example, and vice versa. You can have a look at mine there for Waterdeep Dragon Heist. And this doesn't have to be the same for every module. Maybe you're running a more matured Waterdeep Dragon Heist, or maybe you're running a completely off the walls one like sometimes I do. Be specific. Player age range, pretty self-explanatory. If you're exploring any adult themes, then do not set it under 18 plus. I made a massive mistake before where I was running a game and I just never really popped into my mind. I assumed that most people willing to pay for it would be of age, or at least nearly. I only found out halfway through running a campaign that one of my players was 14 years old. Now, I'm very lucky we did not really, there were some mature teams, but not adult ones. thankfully, so disaster narrowly avoided. Do not set it under 18 plus if you are exploring adult themes. Simple as that. And similarly, if you advertise a teen or an all ages friendly game, as you can see, there it goes. You can put 13 to 17, all ages. Do not stray near adult themes. This is a recipe for disaster, and you don't want to be that kind of DM for teens, kids just trying to get into the game. You could ruin this amazing hobby for somebody for life. What a disaster. A huge dereliction of your duties as a dungeon master, in my opinion. We obviously can't check people's identification. That would be a little silly, but we do have a layer of protection running it through Start Playing. People are, of course, has to put in their age when they're signing up, so you kind of just have to take their word they're being truthful when they've signed up to the platform. It's all you can do. But don't be tempted if someone is near the age limit and they contact you and they say, hey, I'm going to be 18 plus in 6 months or something like that. Sure, they can join you. They can join you, absolutely, when they meet the age limit. Simple as that. Safety tools. So these are so important, and they're not just a way to help people feel safe during your games, although that is very important, more important, but they can vastly improve your game also. If you use the right ones, they can vastly improve your game and help you really find the pulse of what your players really want from your games, and more importantly, what they don't want. Look, I'm sure there are many of you watching who are old school grognards. Look, I know you've been playing D&D for a long time, I know, and you've never once needed or even thought of needing anything like a safety tool, but this is a profession you're looking to get into, right? These are paying customers. They're paying you their hard-earned money for this experience, and they deserve to feel safe during this paid experience. It's your responsibility and duty to them. Simple as that. Your job is to serve them. And I did say this was different to playing at home with your friends, right? There is a long list here of safety tools, and you can certainly find out all about them. You can research all of these yourself. There's a bunch of them, but the ones I most recommend are Session Zero. I mean, okay, I'm sure many of you are familiar and use this a lot, but it's so important. Even if you don't, it's crucial to setting expectations of the players and also for yourself to get an understanding of what your players want for the game. You're really trying to dial in on what they want, and Session Zero is a great way to do that. The Monte Cook RPG consent checklist, you can see it up on the screen now. This is fantastic. I've been using this since the beginning. You can download this for free, and it's a simple green, yellow, red light system on an enormous amount of topics. Just send a copy to each player and use these to form a master consent list of the whole party that you can then send to everyone in your Discord or whatever platform you're using to stay in contact. Green, of course, means it's totally fine. Yellow means it's okay to mention and briefly explore, but without going into too much detail. And red, of course, red light, completely off the table. Don't even mention this stuff if you can help it, and even go as far as changing the module a little bit to exclude these topics and themes. Breaks, these are good for you and everyone involved. Online D&D, it's a little bit different. I'm not even just talking about paid D&D, but online D&D. It's a little bit different than in person. It's fatiguing. Only one person can speak at a time. There's not as much banter between players, The DM can be narrating or describing something to one player, and two other players can be kind of bantering between each other in role-playing. Can't do that here. It's a one-person speaking only system, and there is just a lot of concentration involved, and the break relieves some of this pressure, so use them. They're important. 10 minutes, 15, 20, whatever you want to do. Just make sure you take a break. Stars and wishes. This is a spectacular one, as people can literally tell you what they liked about your session and what they want to see more of. What they liked were the stars, and what they want more of, or maybe even less of, are the wishes. So this is a powerful tool, a powerful way of helping you really finally tune in and dial in, and we're trying to do that all the time, right? For our paying customers, or paying players, we're trying to finally tune in to what a particular party's preferences are. And it also gives you some great feedback about what you're doing well as a DM, which is positive, and it boosts your self-confidence. That's always good. This kind of analysis for your service, it's priceless. Content warnings. Yes, very similar to safety tools. They're self-explanatory, and of course they tie into what we've been talking about so far. Players who pay to play deserve to choose the experience that's right for them. So having accurate content warnings is a great way to avoid any unfortunate misunderstandings, lose players, and get a bad review. You want to avoid all those things, and this is just a great way to do it. You can see here, honestly, just add every, to be honest, I've only added a few here. I'm going to be adding more, and I'm going to probably do it right now after this video. But yeah, add every topic that's going to be in your game. Sure, there's a bunch here, you can see, there's a bunch. And you might think it's overkill, but some of these, even though they might not seem it to you, they can really make some people feel uncomfortable. And you don't want that. Players need to know whether or not your game is something they need to avoid for their own kind of safety and comfort. If they're paying you and you make them extremely uncomfortable, they're going to probably leave you a bad review. You know, it's just not good for you. And it's not good for them either. You're a professional dungeon master, right? You don't want to hurt anyone. So, gameplay details, right? This is where you go into much more detail about your game. Players who are reading this, or they've gotten to this level in your advertisement, players who are very close to choosing your game. So, you want to, it's a great place to manage expectations, like I said, so that you can attract players who will love the type of experience you're presenting. If you're unclear or vague here, and try to use the shotgun method where you try and grab any sort of player, casting a wide as net as possible, trust me, you will inevitably disappoint some people and you will create headaches for yourself. So look, I'll leave mine up on the screen there for a moment. You can kind of see what I've put. And of course, if you can think of any ways to improve on this or any ideas about what to add or what not to add, please put that in the comments down below. I'm always looking to improve my ad copy, so go for it, please. The site has some great suggestions about what to write here in this section, as you can see, but just remember your target player and that you're always trying to sell this experience. Now, what can players expect? This is pretty, again, this all just depends on your style. Combat tactics level, role play amount of puzzles, high, medium, low. Simple as my combat and tactics, I do enjoy them, and I do enjoy players that enjoy them, but I would not call my games high level combat or tactics. They're almost like, they almost take on a more narrative aspect. But anyway, that's irrelevant. A role play amount, high. I love role play. I love engaging in it. I love players that do. So I'm trying to attract those and giving people expectations, of course. An amount of puzzles, low. I've found that only a very specific type of player enjoys puzzles. That's just my experience. Of course, it may be different generally, but this is what I have found. Yeah, amount of puzzles, low. I don't put too much effort into them based on this experience of mine, so I generally don't prep for it that much, so I put it as low. Experience, open to all. That's just for me. Maybe you are incredibly experienced as a DM and you prefer incredibly experienced players. Put advanced. Maybe you are fine with all, where and this is something I really enjoy, is having advanced players and beginners or new players together. You often find that, of course, the beginners learn stuff from the old hats, the old grognards, the people who've been playing this for a long time. They pick up a bunch of mechanics from them, a bunch of rules, and even just ways of role-playing and things like that. It can really open people's minds about that kind of thing, which is amazing. But also, the advanced players often learn stuff from the beginners. The beginners don't really know what they can or can't do, so they tend to try some off-the-wall stuff. This can be refreshing and rejuvenating for those older players who might be stuck in their ways with their kind of gameplay style. So that's why I put open to all. But again, it's based on the game you wish to play, the players you wish to attract. All right, next page. Last one. I know it's a long video, but hold in there. This is very important. So just hold in there. So, character creation. How will character creation happen? Pretty simple, just explain how your character creation works, right? Explain any home rules, character restrictions. Of course, there might be some homebrew stuff you're not willing to run based on your own preferences. Again, you're just managing these expectations, very important. I personally would keep an open door policy for everything character related. Now, I'm not saying that you must accept any and all ideas and things that your players want, but I always tell my players in session 0 if they have an idea for their character backstories or any kind of magical items they might want, if their goals are ever changing, or even just their thoughts on how their characters are feeling about events in the game, they can always message me at any time. It's just very important for your paying players to feel that they have your ear, and that you're listening to them, and that their ideas are incorporated and translated into the game. So always encourage your players to contact you when they have a cool idea for their character. It's exciting for me when they do that. I love hearing about people's characters. I love kind of workshopping them. It kind of adds that extra little kind of step of value, and just leaves players feeling that they've really gotten their money's worth with you as a DM. So, you know, it's so important to make your players feel important, their characters too. Game preparation, the logistical stuff. Think about everything your players will need. Do not leave stuff vague, okay? I know even just the small things like saying that you need a microphone or any other issue. If you didn't make it clear, someone will show up without a microphone. It's happened. It's happened to me. It happens all the time. So just, you know, you do not want to spend a bunch of session 0 figuring out how to be able to hear a player or them hear you. It's very frustrating for you, but more importantly for the other paying customers. So whatever you can think of, put it in there. Put it in. What will you bring? You as in the Dungeon Master. Now, this is where you lay down every benefit for choosing you as a DM over some other DM, right? Try to think of some creative way you can add value to their experience. For example, I do this, and honestly, I think that a lot of DMs do this now, so I'm going to have to think of another way to add some value, but I create curated musical playlists on Spotify, and there's a really good app called Jockey, which I will explain in a future video about how to craft your Discord server for your players. And I play them from Jockey, and they're curated. So I've got ones for dungeons that are, you know, dramatic and dark and mysterious. I've got ones for urban adventures, which are kind of like upbeat. I've got ones for mystery, which, you know, of course, very, very kind of mysterious, but maybe not as dark as the dungeons. And of course, probably the most important one, if you don't have musical playlists for anything else, you really need it for combat, okay? You really do, because some players are waiting a long time, okay? Especially like we were speaking about, this is one person can speak and everyone else is listening. And I find that just having a little bit of music kind of helps the players whose turn it isn't just stay a tiny little bit more engaged while you narrate combat. And tell them, just tell them straight up what you're bringing to the table, right? What sets you apart from other paid D&D experiences? You know, do you have a Roll20 Pro subscription where your characters, or sorry, I beg your pardon, your players will be able to access every compendium, every source book or material you've bought on Roll20? They will have access to that. That is valuable. They can, even when you're not playing, they can just go on there, sign in there, launch the game that they're already in, and just read the material, read the books for free, because you've already done this. Anything you can think of that adds value, put it in here. This might be the deciding factor for many people. For those players who haven't decided, most people will in your kind of the about section. For those who are still having trouble deciding, this is probably what's going to be the last nail in the coffin, so to speak. It's a good coffin though. It's good for you, this coffin. All right, now you are ready to submit. If the detail for you there'll be a button, probably details and probably ask you to submit. So this may take a couple of days as it goes through this screening process. If it comes back rejected, then review the terms of service of the site and see if you missed anything. And of course, it usually comes within a very helpful email from the team, the screening team, that exactly tells you what you've done wrong, why it got failed. So take this to heart and change what they ask you to do. Otherwise, there'll be a kind of a pointless back and forth. And it's probably unwise to annoy the people who approve your game templates, right? It's probably very unwise. Now, I believe that about 9 out of 10 of the rejected templates are due to what we were speaking about before. People try, and most of the time fail, to use Wizards of the Coast's artwork in the thumbnail. Don't do it. Make or find something yourself, and you won't have to worry about this. All right, so if you've been following along in this series step by step, which you have because you're a dedicated, aspiring professional dungeon master, aren't you? Well, then we have your GM profile looking great, very alluring. We have your game template. Your game template has come back approved and it is crafted so that it is attracting the kind of players you want to play with. And you are ready and excited for the next step. Advertising your game. You're ready now. You can do it. It's time. But how, where, and when do I advertise it? You're probably wondering. Well, stay tuned for the next video in the Professional Dungeon Master's Guide, where I provide yet another step-by-step process, a step-by-step guide to pro DMing where you can find out exactly where players are looking to hire a professional dungeon master, how to craft a tempting advertisement for them that will get you the seats at your table filling up very, very quickly. So you've heard a lot from me, but now I want to hear from you. Hit up the comments below. Tell us, have you any ideas for making your own adventure template even more enticing? What aspect of pro DMing are you the most eager to learn about? I'll do my best to include a little bit about everything you guys are asking for in the comments in future videos in the series, so please get typing down there. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please like, subscribe, and crit the notification bell. And remember, this world needs good DMs.